I don't know what to do with my hands. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and whatever else, to the ALL NFL Sunday Huddle. My name is Jeff Kavanaugh from DLLS, which, if you didn't know, is the hardest name to say of the All-City cluster.
No doubt about it.
I never know if I've said 1L, 3 L's, 2 L's. I don't know. But I'm Jeff. And it's nice to see you guys. And I am with my two best friends of all time, which if we're going, hold on. Is your guys' screen the same as mine?
Impossible to say. I'm not there.
Yes. It's
Henry Hanks in the middle.
I would imagine. Yep.
Okay. So Henry Hanks in the middle. Do you want Henry or Hank?
Oh, either one works. Just depends on the vibes. It's a vibes company.
Don't put that on me. And Bo Wolf is over. I can't make my hand go through Henry Hank, but he's all the way over there. Oh. Yeah, see, it's tough. Yeah, cameras
there we go. I got you.
Yeah. But it's nice to see you, man.
Right. There it goes.
Yep. We are about to do the most professional recap of an NFL Sunday that you have ever seen in your life. And we want to welcome you. Don't put a solo shot on me. That's a terrible idea. This is a bookshelf behind me. I work for DLLS, which means that my Dallas Cowboys are ass. And they got smoked today because it's what they do. But they also scored with very little time left to where an onside kick could have made things interesting because that's also what they do. But I'm a sad man. I'm a sad man who definitely hasn't been drinking, but I'm excited to talk about all of the NFL things with friends, one of which is probably also going to be sad with me, Henry, and one of which will probably be okay, but maybe annoyed if I know Philadelphia well enough, and Bo.
That's just my general state of being. It has nothing to do with the Eagles.
Oh, son of a bitch. Well, hi guys. How are you? How are all the things?
I'm good. I feel like as much as I might want to hear about the Cowboys game, since the Eagles and Cowboys are playing next Sunday, it's kind of hard because it seems like Dak Prescott just sort of encapsulated all of it by himself on the sideline.
I don't understand what you're saying, unless Emma's about to show you what. We're not doing great. Is that what that? It looked like it. We're not doing great. Like is what I read there.
We've had better seasons.
We've had better seasons. That's what I saw too. Oh, look at KG in the chat. KG's on the DLLS Mavs show and is also a wonderful Cowboys man. Shout out to Kevin Gray for being here. The Cowboys effing suck. Yeah. Dak nailed it. And I don't think we need to talk about the Cowboys tonight, honestly. I think if you guys have any other games you want to talk about that aren't the Cowboys, namely your own games, I think we should pick one game that none of us watched and just talk about that one.
Okay. Oh, that's a good call.
Colts Vikings. That just happened. I think the Vikings won. I think.
That's the only other one I got to lock into today. I actually got done writing. I think it was the fourth quarter of the Eagles game. I went down to the bar to close out, and there was an Eagles fan sitting there, and he also was very upset. And it was right when I think there was an interception that got called back. But he was having a bit of a meltdown. I think the vibes across all City are probably pretty rough today. But yeah, I mean, Vikings, Colts. Vikings do what they should do. Took them longer than it probably should. And that looks more like Thursday Night Football and Sunday Night Football to me.
Okay. So I want to go to Bo because I do wonder. Okay. I live in Dallas. I've covered the Cowboys for 15 years, and I have a good sense of how Cowboy fan feels. And obviously every city has different versions of fans. There's massive homers. There's the people who are mad all the time. There's realistic people, all of it. But I also have a couple of my best friends on planet Earth are from Philly and now live in Dallas, and they're giant Eagles fans. And I feel like the Eagle fan or fan base is the most equipped to, even though, let me find what was the final score of y'all's game? Okay, well, it ended up close, but whatever. You guys, you had it won most of the way through and hung on and beat Jacksonville. I feel like Eagle fan is the one that is most likely to, after they've won, still boo their team. So, Bo, what I want to know is, after you win another game, you have a very good record. You're chasing after not just a division, but one of the best records in the NFC. I feel like Eagle fan could still be mad. How are the Eagles today?
Well, they could definitely be mad at this game. I mean, this game ended, the Jaguars had 1st and 10 on the 13-yard line with like a minute 40 left, down 5 points. So they were on the brink of winning this game, and Nakobe Dean ends it with an interception in the end zone. So on the whole of the game, the Eagles did dominate. They outgained the Jaguars 447 to 215, so they more than doubled them up. It was 22-0 in the third quarter, and it looked like the game was over. And then they sort of started to collapse a little bit. A.J. Brown left the game with a knee injury and did not return. There's a chance he's going to miss some time, and he's their best player. So that's not great. And then Saquon Barkley fumbles the ball away. That is sort of a debatable call. He gets touched by a Jaguars defender on the foot, and then he runs into Lennon Dickerson, and then he goes to the ground, and the ball pops out, and the Jaguars return it for a fumble, and that makes it 22-16. And all of a sudden, the Eagles start to turtle a little bit. They go for it on 4th and inches, but they don't tush push because they had gotten stopped on 2 tush pushes already in the game. And so instead of kicking a field goal to go up 8 points, they do this little rollout play that has not worked this season, and it didn't work again. And so the Jaguars had a chance to win the game. Now, there were also 2 of the coolest plays I've ever seen in this game. Saquon Barkley jumping over a guy butt first was awesome.
Backwards
and then
DeVonta, badass.
Yeah, like the ass hurdle. I mean, that's what it should be called. It was fantastic. And I love it because even if it doesn't work, the downside is you've just put your butt in a guy's face. That's also very funny. And then the touchdown catch from DeVonta Smith that is the game-winning touchdown catch was an insane one-handed dragging his feet at the back of the end zone, one of the best catches I've ever seen from DeVonta Smith. So we will remember this game for those 2 cool plays. And then Nakobe Dean, it's nice that he gets to end it. I actually do think that in this game, the frustration from Eagles fans is with Nick Sirianni's game management, which is not going to go away. That's probably going to be a problem for a long time. But if you zoom out, this was kind of it was unlucky that this game was as close as it was. I think under the hood, the Eagles were the far superior team in this game. And coming off the heels of last week's win in Cincinnati, which was their best performance of the season, I think the Eagles are feeling pretty good and they belong in that second tier of NFC teams behind the Detroit Lions.
Okay, I that's awesome, because I was about to ask, what is the first tier, and is it just Detroit? And the answer was yes.
I think so.
So yeah, I saw enough of that game, and I love and hate the Eagles all at the same time. Like Nick Sirianni, I mostly hate. Sports hate. I want to be clear.
Yeah.
I want to be clear that it's sports hate. I don't hate anyone. Everyone deserves your love, your respect, and your empathy. But
everyone?
Sirianni, most, you know what? That's a separate podcast.
Okay.
That's a separate podcast. Because kind of, but only kind of. Yeah, but I mean, DeVonta Smith is so good. A.J. Brown is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts, I don't know. Nick Sirianni, I just sports hate. But that's the rules. That's the rules. I cover the Cowboys. I watch the Cowboys. The good news is that we suck, and so it doesn't matter. It's more of a Washington and Philadelphia discussion, and so who cares? But yeah, Philly's always been one of those teams that the last couple of years, it seems like at least from the outside looking in, it seems like the individual parts should be better than the whole. Like, I feel like there's a lot of talent on that team. And even 3 weeks ago, it felt like that wasn't fitting. Although now we may be in a little bit of a different place where it's like, nah, it's kind of coming now. But even just a few weeks ago, it's just like, why aren't they? And definitely the second half of last year was like, why aren't you better with the individual players that you have?
And even like most of last year, even when they were so good record wise, like the numbers under the hood were not as kind. They were winning a lot of close games that they didn't necessarily deserve to win. And so like the regression was coming, even if it was not supposed to be as apocalyptic as the end of season collapse was. And I do think like the start of the season, I totally agree with you that the team was not as good as it should have been talent-wise. And to be fair, given the fact that they had two new coordinators on both sides of the ball, we probably should have been a little bit more patient. But I don't think, there's no patient in Philadelphia. So we're not surprised that didn't actually come. But like on defense, for instance, they have all of these young parts and a brand new coordinator in Vic Fangio and like new position coaches all over the place. And it does seem like things are coalescing a little bit. Now, they have played a relatively light schedule of opposing offenses. Cincinnati last week was a good test, and they performed well. And the first like 7 possessions of this game for the Jaguars was like 6 plays, 3 plays, 3 plays, 1 play, 3 play, 3 play. Like they were dominating. The Jaguars could not move the ball. And so I think there is real optimism for the defense because they have been relatively healthy. They're young, and it does seem like they are getting better. On offense, if A.J. Brown misses time, that's going to be a real test because they have not been an elite offense when they don't have A.J. Brown. Saquon Barkley has been like way better than I could have expected. He looks awesome and makes plays every game that are like I haven't seen an Eagles running back do that since LaShawn McCoy, who was retired, who was inducted into the Eagles Hall of Fame at halftime today. So it was kind of a nice little, handoff to Saquon, who had 199 yards from scrimmage in this game. That said, Saquon has had a lot of work. He had 27 carries in this game. That's part of the reason that I think it was frustrating for Eagles fans because they were up 22 points in the third quarter. It looked like they could put their guys on ice in the fourth quarter, and then they had to scratch and claw just to come away with a win by the skin of their teeth. But I think big picture, with the Cowboys up next and then the Commanders after that, like we'll find out a little bit if they're really, really for real.
Good luck. You got a juggernaut bearing down on you next week.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Henry. Yeah, interrogate Bo about his football team.
The Eagles are not. Yeah, they're not good in Dallas or Arlington.
Where were you going, Henry? Where were you going?
Well, as an outsider, first of all, you'd be crazy not to be scared of the Eagles. Like, there's so much talent that if it does click, then they're going to be great. But they really remind me of the Ravens. And maybe that's just because the Ravens are kind of on my mind, having just played them today. But just so much of how they're built with just that overwhelming offensive talent that should be able to put up big numbers against absolutely anybody. The changes on defense where, I think there's more talent than you're seeing in terms of the results, but with a new coordinator, with new systems, those sorts of things take time. Then you even throw in like Ravens get Derrick Henry, Eagles get Saquon Barkley, both incredible, but neither team really, I would say, is living up to expectations. I think what are the Eagles now? 6-3. Like it's not like it's bad, but 6-2, yeah. But still, the vibes just aren't quite where you would think they would be. I guess some of that is you wind up having to pay guys who make a Super Bowl run, and you lose some of that depth, like a defensive line and even offensive line, but up through the middle on the defense in particular. Like, they aren't probably what they used to be, and I'm not sure that they can get back to that, where every single week they go out there and you just say, this is going to be a dominant football team that should win this game easily. But they're very much competitive. Like, there really shouldn't be a week where they don't have a chance, and in the NFL, that's kind of all you can ask for, I feel like.
Yeah, I think my take on the Eagles the first 6 weeks was like the offense was hovering around like 10th in the league by most of the advanced stats, and that's not good enough given the talent they had, and we hadn't seen the ceiling. And I was like, when are we going to see the ceiling? We keep saying that if all these guys come together, like it's going to be really good, and we're not seeing it. The last 2 weeks on like a per drive basis, we've seen it a little bit more. This game, they were a little bit too conservative for my liking early in the game, but we saw it in spurts. I do believe like if the defense can continue to just incrementally improve and be around like 12th in the league, and the offense can be like around 5th, then yeah, I think they can be, especially if they win the division and get a home game or two, then I think they can be a real serious contender.
And what makes it, at least to me, really interesting is when you look at the leader of the division right now, when you look at the Commanders who beat the Giants by 5 today, I feel like the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, it was like this, holy crap, look at Jaden Daniels go. This is absolutely amazing. And now it's a little bit back to earth for a rookie quarterback, even though they are still winning. And so if you're a Philly fan or somebody who covers Philadelphia for a living, like my little Dallas brain, I find it still hard to believe that the team that is winning the division with a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach and so many new pieces, that is something that is super intimidating or something that you can't overcome. And a few weeks ago, I thought Washington would win this division, but it seems like Philly is coming around to being closer to the sum of its parts. And that if I were a Philly observer, a Philly fan, a Philly whatever, that I would think, even though we're not in first at the moment, I think it's your division. I think if it's not your division, that's an upset.
I think that Vegas agrees. I think Vegas still has the Eagles as favorites for the division right now, but I think it's closer to a toss-up. I do think that the Commanders' defense, without having watched all of their games, leaves me a little bit wanting. I think it looks like the Giants put up like equal yardage to the Commanders in this game, like over 300 yards. And that offense, having watched them a couple weeks ago, is terrible. So that doesn't bode well, I think. But I do like Jaden Daniels looks awesome to me. And it seems to me that when those two teams play, it'll be an offense fest. I'm also not familiar enough with the Commanders' schedule to know what advantage they have from getting a slightly easier schedule than the Eagles. But the Eagles' schedule is actually pretty friendly.
Let's take a peek. Commanders' remaining schedule: hosting Steelers, at Philly, hosting Cowboys. That's a big dub. Hosting Titans, they're going to win that by 100. At Saints, they're going to win that by 50. Hosting Eagles, hosting Falcons, at Cowboys. That is a pretty easy schedule.
Pretty easy.
That's a pretty easy schedule. Okay, so you guys
I got the Commanders at plus 700. I think it was after week 1 or week 2.
Oh, nice.
Win the division. I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I like that. Way to hop on it.
Yeah, you probably should. I mean, there's only 2 teams left. There's only 2 teams.
Is it really? Is it that hopeless? Is it that hopeless in Dallas?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think people are coming around to. I would love to never talk about the Cowboys or just talk about the Broncos next, but we can talk about the Cowboys if we have to. I think people are coming around to realize that of all of the things Jerry Jones said this offseason, one of them was the truth and the rest of them was him selling things. This is a rebuilding year that he didn't want to say out loud, but he accidentally did once. And he said it before they signed the Dak Prescott deal because the Jerry Jones special is to try to turn the fan base against their best players when it's time to negotiate contracts and talk about how hard it would be to pay this guy X amount of money because then you couldn't have a good team around him. And that's a Jerry Jones special. And I also think they intentionally don't get their best player signed until the last minute, and then they get bent over and have to pay top of the market because of the way that they did it. But it keeps them in the headlines up until kickoff of week 1. They got their stuff done right before the season started, and I think that's intentional. But this was always going to be a year where they were not going to sign any big names that would require a big signing bonus because Jerry Jones is cheap, which doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but I promise they're cheap. When it comes to cash spending, the Cowboys are at the bottom of the league consistently. So like they do free agency bottom of the barrel. They don't make a bunch of trades. They draft and develop. That's kind of their deal. And then they pay the guys that they like, whether they're good or not. It's kind of their bit. And so this year was always going to be, we're not going to help you. But if Dak and CD and rookies on the offensive line and Parsons, if you guys can win the division, that's great. But you're not going to get the standard NFL deal, which is we recognize that we need help on the offensive line, so we're going to sign people or we're going to trade for people. We recognize that our defensive tackles are the worst in the league, so we're going to sign people or trade for people. We recognize that there's only one NFL running back on the roster, so we're going to draft a guy or we're going to sign people. They didn't do any of that. They lost 8 to 10 relevant contributors and said, we'll draft some guys and we'll see what happens. And so to me, it's not surprising what is happening to them this year, because this is the eat some of our bad contracts, carry over cap space, because we have other guys who are about to retire and or leave that we're going to have to eat money for them. And it's kind of a reboot. And if our best players are good enough and we stay healthy enough and our young guys are good enough that we can win a bunch of games, great. But if not, that's fine, because this is our plan. And I don't think they pictured it being this bad. I don't think they pictured being this banged up. I don't think they pictured losing their top 4 defensive ends, all of them. And so it's worse than they expected. And that's why Jerry Jones is losing his mind. That's why a lot of people are losing their minds. But I'm not surprised where they are given the injuries. They were never trying. They weren't trying. They didn't try their best. And that's all I care about in sports. Did you try your best? The Cowboys aren't trying their best. And so that's where they are. And they get smoked every week. And it's so fun. I'm having a great time. The fans are having a great time getting smoked every week. But next week, they'll probably beat Philly by 40.
That's possible.
Wow.
The Cowboys are going to get so destroyed by Philadelphia next week. And it's going to be the nail in the coffin. And
it's a house of horrors for Nick Sirianni.
What happened?
That's a house of horrors for Nick Sirianni at stadium.
Yeah, but it's a different team. Like the Cowboys lost their best running back and did not even try to replace him. What they replaced Tony Pollard with is so gross and so horrible and so awful. My theory is you have to try really, really, really hard to be bad at running back. I hate running backs, with all due respect. Like Saquon's great.
I'm not a running back. You don't
Saquon's great. No, but like the Eagles, the Eagles are the team that paid Saquon, and he's a wonderful player. The guys who get into the league and now they're 4 or 5 years into the league and they hit free agency. Like when the Cowboys paid Zeke, I thought it was the dumbest thing they've ever done. And it was, because they had to cut him and eat a bunch of money. And then they brought him back while still paying the money they owed him from cutting him 2 years ago.
And he looked like he's the one who ate all the money.
Yes, he sure does. And then he doesn't go to meetings and get mad that he's going to be the 3rd running back when you deserve to be the 5th running back. You should be on somebody else's team. Bringing back Zeke was the dumbest thing they could have done this offseason, and it's what they did, because that's a Jerry Jones special, because they knew they weren't going to be all in. Jerry said it 100 times, but they knew they weren't actually. They were their version of all in last year. They restructured contracts that no one would restructure, guys that you wanted to cut because they were chasing it. They were trying to win. You free up cap space, you sign guys, you try to win. They were never going to be all in this year. And I honestly believe that even Jerry Jones knew Zeke can't play. Dalvin Cook can't play. You have to try to be bad at running back. It's hard. If you have an NFL team and you sign a middle of the road, 26-year-old veteran, draft a guy in the 3rd round, draft a guy in the 7th round, you're good for a half decade at running back. You have to try to suck at that position. And the only way to pull it off is to have your lead back be an undrafted free agent who actually I think has something. Rico Dowdle's fine. And then bring in multiple people who are super washed up, and the only reason you brought him in was for name recognition. You gave Zeke a new jersey number to sell the jerseys. And you brought in Dalvin Cook, and no one in the NFL spends 7 weeks wondering, is the dude on our practice squad going to play this week? Nobody. But boy, there's a reason the Dallas Cowboys are worth more than anybody else, and it's because Jerry Jones has people wondering if Dalvin Cook is going to play every week. He's been washed for 3 years. Zeke's been washed for 4. But anyway, where were we? What were we talking about? What are you guys doing? How y'all doing? What's happening? Can you tell that today was good?
Talk Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Broncos.
I know you're making me feel better though, hearing all that. In big picture, I mean the Broncos are 5-4. You can't complain. I think before today, obviously 5-3. That was the first time they've been 2 games over 500 this late in the season since 2016. So,
wow.
As much as
Hank, we lost by 30.
40
we
points.
lost by 30, and I feel great is the most Colorado thing of all time, and I love it.
Yeah, well, I didn't feel great until I heard everything that was going on in Dallas and realized how much better Denver is.
It's so bad.
It is. It sounds awful. Like, it really does sound awful. Well, and then you also just paid so much money to all the guys on the team and kind of just locked this whole group down together. It's like the foreseeable future is these Cowboys, which is pretty crazy.
Well, I will say, and then we will go to Denver. I will say,
Okay.
I do think that's part of the plan. Like, they knew we have a franchise quarterback, and yes, he's not the athlete he used to be, and he's not the super freak that when the answer is not given to you in a play, like everybody wants the quarterback that has either the super freaky arm that can put it wherever he wants or the super freaky athlete, and Dak has neither of those things, but he's a really good quarterback. He's a franchise quarterback. You pay them. You don't let them go. And CD is a wonderful receiver. You pay them. You don't let them go. But it just, the way it lines up is they knew they were going to sign those 2, and they'll probably sign Micah. But if you looked at your roster and said, our roster is so butt that we're going to trade Micah Parsons in the offseason, like, I'm not mad at you, but they could easily pay him. They're going to have $100 million in cap space when they restructure Dak and CD this offseason. They can do whatever they want. All they're locked into is our winning window is in the next 4 years with Dak and CD, and we'll figure out the rest later. That's what they're locked into. And this year, they're just going to eat it to get ready for that. But anyway, on to the Broncos. Go, team, go.
Yeah, no, I mean, big picture, this is better than anybody could have hoped for. And, you know, it really sucked today. It's crazy how long an NFL game is when you're just getting beat the way the Broncos were getting beat. Because you just sit there and it's just drive after drive after drive. Especially, like, you see Lamar go out there. He's 16 for 19 today. And like, how many times you think you have that guy sacked and he just leaks out and all of a sudden there's somebody open? You know, Derrick Henry just doing his thing. The Broncos before today had been incredible against Derrick Henry. Played him 4 times, I think. Gave up like 3.1 yards per carry total through all those. But today, he ran all over him. They started out just trying to take the ball out of his hands. Like, they were just loading the box, getting close to the line of scrimmage. But then all of a sudden, there's playing soft zone behind, and Lamar's picking them apart. So then all of a sudden you have to back off, and you can't commit to stopping the run. And so they start running, and then you crowd back up and say, well, this time we'll play man. But then you start getting called for penalties and getting beat because, you know, Zay Flowers is fast, and just about Rashad Bateman's fast. It's just a really tough team to stop. And the Broncos came in with a plan, and the plan didn't work. A whole bunch of mistakes, obviously, but you know, forced a 3-and-out on the first drive and gave up 7 consecutive scoring drives. The offense honestly didn't look that bad for the most part. I guess Bo Nix overthrew 3 separate receivers in the end zone, which isn't ideal, but there were some other things they did well. I think, again, big picture, you probably expected to lose this game. But you look at the teams trying to get in the playoffs in the AFC, and this is still by far the best chance the Broncos have gotten. And I think the 2 teams closest right now are the Bengals and the Colts, who are both 4-5. The Broncos at 5-4 aren't in perfect position to make the playoffs. You'd love to be 6-3 after this game today, and you certainly would have loved for it to not be a blowout. You don't want to lose by 30, but you take your lumps and hope that all these young guys who are getting their first real opportunity to play in a game like this learn something and handle the Chiefs a little bit better next week.
Playing the Ravens isn't fun. As somebody who watched this team play the Ravens, it's not a lot of fun. But the Cowboys pretended to make it close at the end. Like, oh, look at us. We scored while you guys weren't trying your best. Oh, my God, we recovered an onside kick. And oh, my God. And, like, at the end, it was like, well, technically you had the ball with a chance to go win the game. But, I mean, Lamar Jackson's a freak show. And I don't think, like, Derrick Henry is the opposite. Yeah, I'll just keep taking shots at Cowboys players. Like, there are guys drafted the same year as Derrick Henry, before Derrick Henry, that played the same position as Derrick Henry, that have been done as a good player for, I don't know, 3 years, give or take. And there's just there's a difference when you're a freak show that, unlike this guy who's a problem in the world, like somehow Derrick Henry is the guy that learned from the LeBron James train of thought and was like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to commit myself to what I do for a living, and I am going to take care of my body. I'm going to spend a ton of money on it. I'm going to do all the diet and exercise. And so I'm going to be able to survive what happens to running backs in the NFL, and I'm going to be able to keep being good. And some guys just like to vibe and kind of get down and party and stuff. And then it probably won't last as long. And like, you can't do better as a running back who wants to go to the Hall of Fame and do everything and win everything, then when you become a free agent, go stand next to number 8 in Baltimore in the backfield.
Yeah.
Where teams have to worry about that dude at all times. I thought, I'm used to running backs when they get high usage, like, yeah, they're going to trend downward. When Derrick Henry signed with Baltimore, I went, oh God, he's not going to trend downward. What a dream. What a dream for a badass running back to stand next to Lamar Jackson. And we both had to play him. Bo, you guys haven't had to play them, do you? Do you have to play them? It's not fun.
The Eagles do play them later. Yes.
Okay. It's not fun. It's not fun. You're not going to like it.
It's unique.
You might like it. It's not fun.
It's just so tough. I mean, it's different for the Broncos too, coming off games against the Panthers and the Saints, because those teams, you don't really need a game plan. You just kind of go out there and you should just be able to push them around.
What was that?
Exactly what happened. And then
what an insult! Yeah, those teams don't even need a game plan. That's so funny.
No, you literally just show up. You can push them back. You can run for 5 yards a pop. Defensively, there's nothing that scares you. But then you play a team like this, and you just have to be so particular. And so you decide, we're not letting Lamar run. We're not letting Derrick Henry run. Lamar finishes with 15 yards per pass attempt. And so because of that, you start sitting back, and all of a sudden you got Derrick Henry running, and there's just no way to take away both of those guys and still have anybody left to handle the rest of the weapons they have. Because again, they're just so fast everywhere else. So it's gonna really suck playing them.
Yeah. Ravens. Okay, let's play a little around the NFL game because we've handled all of our teams. Ravens, Chiefs, obviously, Lions. If I take those 3 teams, do you think I've picked the teams that are in the Super Bowl? If I get Chiefs, Ravens, Lions?
I mean, I guess I would take the field, but
how far down? Like how far down? I guess that's like Lions and like the Eagles are good. They have a good record.
They're capable.
They have a good roster. Do you look at the Lions as if my team lined up and played the Lions tomorrow, you think you would get smoked? Or did you say, yeah?
I think right now the Eagles would get smoked. Yes.
Okay. Now the
right
Broncos.
Now. But I also do I worry a little bit about the Lions that they're burning so bright right now. We've seen that before. Like,
yeah,
it's not about how good you play in November. It's about how good you play in January. So, I mean, obviously, like health aside, they still have to maintain it. But yeah, I think right now, I think the Lions would be healthy favorites over the Eagles.
They're so good.
I know the Packers just lost.
Wasn't the post game Lions locker room seems like the coolest place to be in football right now? Like talk about vibes. Like those are good vibes.
Dan Campbell is vibes. Dan Campbell's vibes. And what I love about Dan Campbell is, I think you would picture tight end. Like he played his career as a tight end. What could be more me tough football man take your numbers and F off, like we football tough.
Yes.
But Dan Campbell's the head coach, and he does trust all of the other things in football. Like they're one of the most aggressive teams. They're not anti-analytics. They do the things the way you should do the things, despite the fact that it's kind of a career second tight end in charge who wants to bite people, and yet they do everything really smart, and it makes me so jealous.
And what I love about it is specifically like the fourth down aggressiveness stuff. And this is the same argument that I've made for so long, and I saw it in 2017 with the Eagles when Doug Peterson was willing to really turn the volume up on that stuff, is that it does go hand in hand with like the machismo football guy, we are better than you. Like we're going to line up because we are confident and we're going to beat you on fourth down. Like what is more sissy than punting the ball away? Like there is connectivity between the analytics and like the old school football mentality in my mind on offense. And it's on defense too, because it's like, so what if you stop us? Our defense is going to stop you back. Like that confidence, those things do go together.
I'd never really thought about it that way. And that is one of the greatest football points I've ever heard in my life. Honestly, because it's like so many people view it as the way that we've always done it is the way it should be done. And like coaches will get fired for doing something that I hate the word analytics because it just makes people turn against it immediately.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And so it's like what makes sense mathematically, statistically, what is the right thing to do? A few years ago, it gets you fired because it can work 4 times out of 5 and you could win 2 or 3 games you shouldn't have won and then lose 1 because you kept doing those things, and you'll get fired for that game because that's not the way we do things. We wouldn't have lost that game if you were old school, and they don't care that we wouldn't have won the other 2. It's just like, it's like you cannot be that outlier. And the fact that you can line it up that way, I think makes it very sellable to people. Where it's like, no, listen, this ain't calculator boy. This is Dan Campbell. We're not scared of them. We're going.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes it work. It makes the nerd stuff work. Damn it. Okay, so we need our calculators to be pushed by a tight end. That's what, and Jason Witten's going to be the next head coach of the Cowboys. So it's fine. It is so possible. That is so possible. Bill Belichick or Jason Witten should be the betting favorite way over someone like Ben Johnson because we are the Dallas Cowboys. And that's what you can sell in a press conference is this guy is a Dallas Cowboy or, this guy is he's the best head coach it's ever. And I do mean and did and will and do. And he did and is the best. And no one's ever been better than this Bill Belichick. He'd find a way to not know how to pronounce his name. But yeah,
I like the way you close your eyes to really get into Jerry's head and get into character.
Mm-hmm.
You have to. Do you guys think that if I played buttons off my Roadcaster that it would go over this?
They
Emma,
do.
you think it would work?
They do. Yeah, it works.
They work.
Big job from them.
Okay. The disembodied voice, Emma, who's going to come in as our Cardinals analyst in a second. One of my favorite things to do is just to pretend that this works for anything. If I'm talking about the Cowboys, I say, is it the hot dog or is it the bun? And you could just literally be like, should they have called a pass or a run play? And I'm like, is it the hot dog or is it the bun? Because on the Amazon Prime show, this is the Jones boys at a high school football game discovering hot dogs.
Now this is a hot dog bun. I think it's a hot dog too.
And I think it's great.
Wow.
And I think it's great.
If you were to wake up tomorrow and for some reason you found out Jerry Jones sold the team, would that be a happy thing for you?
I'd be the best sports day of my life, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can acknowledge that Jerry Jones is the best owner in the history of sports, and he gives you a worse chance of winning. He's both those things, which is why the hot dog boys, I like to do a Steven voice and say, it's both those things, Daddy. Like that's the hot dog and the bun thing. And I think this is my glory hole button. Let's see.
I want me some glory hole.
So we got that one. Oh, I like this one too. I like this one too.
Why not just start the day fucking it up?
That was when Jerry was taking the helicopter from somewhere to somewhere, and they realized they had to go back and get Steven. And he was like, sure, let's go back and get Steven. Why not start the day effing it up?
That's funny.
That's what I spend my days doing, is thinking what things that a Jones has said can I put into my little machine so that I can play it for people. That's kind of how I do my day. Yeah. Wow. Emma, how'd the Cardinals do?
Oh, this is an awful idea. Nobody knows who I am, and nobody cares about what I have to say.
Emma is the biggest
I totally
badass.
disagree with that.
Emma's the biggest badass in the whole company. I
so disagree with that one. Anyway, the Cardinals continue their 3-0 win streak, leading the NFC West, which is just kind of unheard of in Arizona. If nobody knows, we have awful luck here. We're awful here. It's actually really sad. Kind of how Jeff is. It's similar. Anyway, it was actually a pretty good win, 29-9. But there were some really ugly moments. Kyler Murray got sacked 3 times, one of them being by his own offensive lineman.
That's fun.
Yeah, that one was gut-wrenching, honestly.
Love it.
It really fucking hurt. But Trey Benson, we're not on OTT. We're good.
Oh, shit. I didn't know I could cuss.
Yeah, we can. Anyway. Trey Benson and Trey McBride found the end zone for the first time in the 2024 season. If I'm not mistaken,
you need a third Trey. There has to be 3 Treys. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What are we doing?
But Henry, if I'm not mistaken, Trey McBride coming out of CSU, I think.
Yeah,
that's correct.
We played in a golf tournament together this summer.
That's right.
Big flex.
Fun guy. Yeah.
I love Trey. Trey's a fan favorite. But capping it all off, James Conner, his 4th 100-yard game, 100-yard game this season. He's a dog. I'm a sucker for James Conner. I love his story. I love what he can do for this team and where he has brought this team. Big fan.
I warned Emma that.
Emma, you killed it.
I warned Emma that I was going to tell her you're on the show. Get on the show. And you crushed it. You crushed it.
No, I felt like I was there.
I felt like I was there. Well, actually, shocking fact. If you looked at any of the footage or any highlights or anything, or if you tune into our CHGO guys, they were making it pretty apparent. It was definitely 80-20 Chicago. It looked like a Chicago home game, which it's kind of known in Arizona that all of the Chicago fans are there, unfortunately. Every time that we play Chicago at home, it looks like a Chicago home game. But in my opinion, Cardinals proved why you shouldn't be selling your tickets to the Chicago fans.
Do the Cardinals play the Cowboys?
I don't know, but if they do, they're going to win by.
Let's
see. Cowboys schedule. L. That's an L. That's an L. No Cardinals.
No, we don't.
No, we're going to lose to the Eagles, Texans, Commanders. Probably beat the Giants. Lose to the Bengals. Probably beat the Panthers. Lose to the Bucks. Lose to the Eagles. Maybe beat the Commanders. So the Cowboys are barreling towards 6-11. That's the new math. Stupid 17 games. We're barreling towards 6-11, 7-10. Top 10 pick. You trade down from that top 10 pick. Now you can actually burn that first pick on a running back. And then you can, because we don't have time to actually pick a running back or a wide receiver because we have to pick both of the lines of scrimmage before we think about any of that crap. Cowboys need a lot of stuff. They need a lot of stuff. Everyone has to go to bed, especially Bo, who's on the East Coast. Bo, do you have any other NFL thought that needs out, or are you ready to go to bed?
Let me see. Yeah, the Colts had their worst offensive performance of the season. So what was it worth benching Anthony Richardson for?
Okay.
That is pretty crazy. The only thing I can think of is, so it's like 7-0 at halftime or whatever, and obviously a 7 is a defensive touchdown. What were the odds that Anthony Richardson would have given them a turnover that would have led to Minnesota points? Because it's 50-50. He was going to score for one team or the other. You just don't know
what?
exactly.
They would have lost the game just like they ended up losing the game anyway.
Fair.
They didn't
That's
get to,
fair.
I don't know.
The world's weird for the quarterbacks who have a lot of potential. Like if you're a great athlete and you have a giant arm and the NFL tells you, yeah, you're going to be a top 10 pick. Like who in their right mind says, I know I'm good. Like you go. And Anthony Richardson's not ready to play NFL football, but what are you going to do? And that's, I don't know what I would do in that scenario.
Yeah.
Do I put in the old man or do we just ride this and see what happens? I would like to think that you want to figure out his, let him play and figure it out, but then you've won games and like, now I want to make the playoffs and life gets confusing, kids. That's what happens. Hank, NFL thoughts before I go to the bathroom and go to bed because I've been drinking and I haven't gone to the bathroom in the last 45 minutes.
I think the Steelers are legit. This is a throwback to a couple days ago, but that defense is for real. Russ can do the things that he does, and that's going to be enough for them plenty of the time. Super Bowl is obviously crazy, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win the AFC North and wind up winning a playoff game or two. And after watching Russell Wilson the past couple of years, it's going to be honestly pretty shocking to see.
My NFL thought of the day is, as somebody who, as soon as I know that my team's not going to be good enough to contend for anything, I tweet out the ice tank. There's a tank. If you go to GIFs and you type in tank and it's on the ice and it's like sliding around the corner, I want to tank and lose all the games. So today there were games I was watching and cheering for, and two of them went my way. I would like to congratulate the Panthers on their win and the Titans on their win as my Dallas Cowboys attempt to catch you for the number 1 overall pick, as they both won their second game of the season. We got you in our sights now.
Yeah, there are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams tied with 2 wins.
We're coming for all
ridiculous.
Of you. I hope
that's
all
why
of you
that's why the Broncos think they're going to playoffs.
Yeah. And who would have thought? Like that seems ahead of schedule, at least to me, and good for them. It's a party. All right. I hope you guys have the best night ever. I just want you to know that. I hope both of you have the best night ever. Emma, I hope you have the best night ever.
Thank you for leading the way.
I didn't. I have no idea what happened, but we did it. We did a show, and it was the All NFL Sunday Huddle, and that's what we did. Make sure that you follow Bo on Twitter at Bo_Wolf. Make sure that you, and that's with a U, not no.
That's right.
Make sure,
gets people.
Make sure that you follow Henry Hank at Henry Chisholm, and that's an H after the S, just so you know.
And after the C.
And after the C. The H's
and
are everywhere.
To start.
And you can,
everywhere.
God, there's so many H's. And you can follow me at Time for Jeffrey. And then now I'm going to leave you with my sign off, which even when I've been drinking, I realize that empathy is important. Remember that you have no idea what anyone's going through. So be cool to everyone. We love you. Be easy.
We all silly like the mayor.